As most have noticed, I have recently been absent from most social media, mostly due to recent events and to allow myself to reflect more clearly on everything. The allegations that were raised against me last September have affected me emotionally and physically, caused by the thing I had always loved and dedicated my life to, the furry fandom. Since I've joined, I've noticed the community go from what I saw as a welcoming, bright, wonderful place of positivity to a place of hateful and toxic mindsets. Regardless of what the intentions were, I have personally seen the community grow more hateful over time. Perhaps it may be from all the times when people were degrading those without fursuits, or the wrong fursuit maker, or threatening to leak people's personal information to hurt and damage them just for disagreeing over something trivial, or saying outright false allegations towards others for their own agendas, or personal beef and grievances. As I've talked about before, and what Dishonored Wolf had recently gone through as he showed within his video defending himself, Corey Coyote was also the recent target of an attempted witch hunt. I have also seen fighting and hostility, clashing ideologies between others, such as the constant back and forth between people like Genesis Wolf and Corthorix, where people will rely on trying to make the opposing party look as bad as possible over their personal viewpoint. Even the recent drama between Sonic Fox and PK Russell. Not to say either side is right or wrong in these matters, as honestly, I don't care to comment on that, and that doesn't matter to me anymore. We were all gathered here for a common interest, a personal enjoyment of a form of self-expression, creativity, and art form, making each other feel like they belong, or ready to give a fellow fur warm hugs and helping each other through the darkest of times. But some people get wrapped up in such insignificant, irrelevant matters, in some cases worried about other people's material possessions or what adults want to do on their own free time with another consenting adult. It's downright none of their business and not worth fighting over. People trying to dox one another, which is illegal, parentheses, or trying to get ready for the next hit piece on someone, or the other party getting ready to retaliate, where things can escalate, making a situation much worse in some cases. Doxing is never okay, especially when a lot of the time we can just discuss disagreements privately and civilly as adults instead of making everything a massive public event where misconceptions and or misunderstandings can spread due to the public's misinterpretation of a situation. In my own case, where people falsely accused me of horrible things I would never do, but the mere pointing of a finger was enough to turn half the fandom against me. I want to say loud and clear, once and for all, I am innocent. But people are not willing to wait on the outcome of my investigation, which would show that these armchair amateurs rush, squint at blurry, fake evidence and pronounce me guilty. In all of these fake witch hunts, all of which accusations that fly around are doing massive damage to the fandom and our public image as a whole. Furthermore, when the wrong people are persecuted, it is a huge injustice, and anyone who is on the wrong side is ruined. And then we have the trolls, who are only doing this for 15 seconds of fame and attention, or who just love kicking a man while he is down. People who have never met me, do not know me, but want to pass judgment on me. Then we have the issue of backstabbers. People like Nas and other clueless YouTubers, people who were supposed to be my friends, who do not know what they are talking about, people who threw me under the bus at the first accusation, instantly convinced by weak evidence without ever reaching out to me, without even getting my side of the story, without ever offering any kind of help. What kind of friend is that? Now sure, you can just brush all this off aside as something that happens in every fandom, until you realize that's where my personal gripe comes from. Almost every week, I will see or hear about another scandal going on, and when there is a new scandal every week, people get burned out on chasing these illusions. Following an angry mob to the next target is exhausting, and they are hurting their own cause. No one wins. Whether their motivation is driven by personal hate of someone, something, or personal political belief, but secretly trying to justify it under the guise of insert personal ideology here, double dash. It has only made this community appear as more bloodthirsty to me and to the outsiders, and with what I have seen within my time in the fandom, this comes off as a community that is drifting in the wrong direction, a dark direction. Perhaps it was due to my rose-tinted colored glasses where I centered myself and my content around making others happy and to bring enjoyment from what I do that caused me not to notice this in the past. If not, I merely overlooked it or never heard as much about it back then when I first discovered the fandom. As a result of this worsening trend, in my own recent experiences, it is something that I just do not feel comfortable with anymore, hence my decision to leave this fandom that I once called home. Now, with all that said, please don't get me wrong, as there are some generally wonderful people I have met, and many more I did not get a chance to meet, that are good associates, and of course, the best of friends that anyone could ever ask for. The fan base I acquired during my entire time here, the reason why I continued to do what I did on YouTube, never a want for money, nor a lust for fame. Those just happened to come to me by mere chance generosity, and I will always be forever grateful for it. Which is why it leaves me in tears as I write this, being in the crosshairs of many clueless, misinformed bullies within a controversy that has plagued me for months, and has genuinely changed my life forever, and will likely affect me for many years to come. Writing this and reflecting, my life flashing before my eyes, I always have and still do wish the best for this fandom, as I know it. That said, I feel that it's finally time for me to take my leave until further notice. I want to live my own life and focus on me now. It has been an honor and privilege to entertain and influence as many people as I have. I will never forget any of you. Again, I give my deepest gratitude for the overwhelming support. Kiro. P.S. For those whom it may concern, I will be deactivating all social media accounts excluding my YouTube account, although I will no longer be active with it. I will keep my videos up as I know it brings great joy to some. So please, if you wish to, feel free to visit, sit back, and have the positive experience I've always wished to give to you all. Thank you to all my supporters who have followed me through the years, going back to 2013. And to everyone who has stuck with me through this horrible episode, who didn't believe the liars and the trolls, I will never forget you! Love you, Kiro! Yeah. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Panda back in action. I just wanted to say, I would like to deeply apologize to everyone for my extended absence. I've had a lot of things going on, namely work, namely my movie project, as you might have seen with a couple trailers I posted. But we're not here to talk about that today. I wanted to talk about something that I found out fairly recently. As recently as this morning, in fact, somebody posted a link to one of Kiro's tweets in a Telegram chat room that I was a part of, and basically what happened was, I wasn't really expecting to see what I saw. Kero the Wolf had posted a bit of a teary-eyed, memo that I should call it a letter. It was basically a letter addressed to the entire furry fandom, and basically he reasserted the fact that he is in fact innocent, at least that's what he claims, and that he would just like to wish the rest of us, the best going forward, and that he will never forget any of us throughout the good times, the bad times, in between. But he also expressed some things that I will agree with him insofar as it is a phenomena that is taking place on social media, especially as it pertains to the furry fandom, that is definitely not a good thing for the furry fandom. And that is the polarization that we experience on the daily. And, I say that because, people pick fights with other people based on ideological differences or political differences. Just various trivial things. I mean, the Twitter outrage hate mob is definitely a real thing. And if you don't believe me, go ahead and say something vaguely controversial on Twitter and see what happens to you. If you're a no-name, chances are you'll just get a rude comment or two, but if you're anybody that has any acclaim or fame or any claim to fame, expect to get a bit of a hate mob going after you. But yeah, in Kiro's case, I didn't advocate for any retaliatory action be taken against him. I didn't want to see any harm necessarily come to him, although I do feel as though his behavior, as well as the dialogue that he shared with the rest of the community, was at the very least inconsiderate on his part. He basically lied to us a bunch of times, and every time that new evidence was gleaned or a correlation was drawn between something that he had done in the past to the allegations of bestiality, pedophilia, necrophilia, and all the philias in between, he would basically try to delete the evidence, in spite of the fact that usually 9 times out of 10, the evidence would be archived. Perhaps the most famous of which, there was a video floating around where the background, you see a very prominent wall texture. The inlay of the wall texture is basically set up in such a unique way as that is probably unique to his household. And you can't say it with like beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt, but you can basically eyeball it and cross-reference between the like a screen cap that somebody had taken of a tour that he had taken of his house against the video of a dog being unfortunately sexually molested and very lewd behavior being taking place with that dog. And you can basically tell that both the backgrounds are the same. Now, can you really say that it was Kiro that was doing it? Maybe not. But at the same time, it does beg a lot of questions, as in, why was a act of zoophilia taking place in this house? Why did he try to delete the video of the tour that he did of his house when somebody pointed out the background looked exactly the same? It just didn't look good for him, especially the fact that he lied to the Ashley Zoe Fox interview and he lied to Cathorix during his interview with Cathorix. And I don't know, the whole thing has just been a mess from day one. I personally began to see that Kiro was guilty about halfway through. That is my personal belief. Like, I believe him absolutely guilty of at least some of the allegations that have been levied against him. But at the same time, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not law enforcement, and I am not, anything. I'm not any person with any, serious authority behind me. Save for the fact that I'm just a guy on the internet, commenting on all this. But I think my greatest concern right now, after I saw all the Twitter comments that followed his last tweet, I have to say, I am disturbed by the fact that so many people overlooked what he did, as in, they didn't even see it as an innocent until proven guilty sort of thing. They just seemed to passively say, oh, well, I don't care what you did. I still love you for who you are. And I find that concerning, that so many people would overlook zoophilia, pedophilia, necrophilia, and all that sort of thing. Just because Kero the Wolf happened to be somebody with a little bit of fame. And, I don't know. Supposedly, the story goes that Kero the Wolf didn't really have any claim, to fame, as it were, until he was interviewed by Shane Dawson, and he became sort of, normalized amongst the fandom and recognized. And I have to say, he has a damn good fursuit, but at the same time, I don't think his videos are really for me. Just saying. I'm being completely honest with you. So I'm not biased against or for Kiro, but based on the evidence, and I actually did a 2 hour long video basically dissecting everything that had happened up to that point. Kero the Wolf had recently commented on one of my videos and stated that the allegations against him weren't true. So he's still reasserting his innocence, but at the same time, I think the general consensus about most people that have basically followed this from day one can probably say beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that he's very much guilty. And if he's not guilty, of everything, he's guilty of at least some of it, because, the question is he just a compulsive liar? Is he lying because he, has been caught doing something that he shouldn't be doing, that most of normal society would find reprehensible? I ask you all this because it's an issue that basically has been at the center of this entire debacle. And, I'm not going to keep making videos about this. I only say it now because this is something of a significant development in the whole ordeal. But, yeah. I noticed that for several months now, Kero the Wolf had basically maintained radio silence on YouTube. He posted a couple videos, but the comments were disabled, obviously. The like to dislike ratio was disabled, obviously. And he was very careful as to what he said or what he did going, from that point onwards. And, his behavior has not been one of an innocent man. And I have to say, if I was in his shoes, heaven forbid, I'd probably continue business as usual until, actual consequences came after me. I got arrested or something, And his lying and denying and, just trying to basically, yell, I'm innocent, I don't have any exonerating proof, but I'm innocent, didn't really move the populace. And some of the responses on Twitter weren't very pleasant, to say the least. I'll probably play them here in the background in a short montage or so, but yeah. I cannot say personally that I'm surprised, and I have to say that the reading that I did in the beginning of this video, it made me want to retch a little bit, just how melodramatic he was in how he wrote that. And, you know, to be fair, I'm sure that a lot of you are Kero the Wolf fans. You at least appreciated his early content before it came out that he was potentially, allegedly, a dog fucker, but, maybe that's maybe just a little bit too harsh. And, you know, some of my friends, they genuinely do not care about all of this. They just want it done for all of us to move on until the next piece of juicy drama hits the internet. Which may happen sometime soon, to be honest, but personally I hope not. I would like the fandom to mostly be cohesive. Obviously, you're going to have some ne'er-do-wells in any fandom, but, you know, Kero the Wolf just... he was almost like a hero to some people, at least by how they treated him. I guess at the very least he was a source of inspiration, but, you know, you hear about it all the time. Your favorite star or, you know, sports team member or somebody that you look up to as a celebrity, they are caught doing something horrible, and the scandal doesn't leave them because, like, that reputation sort of follows them. I see that as basically the same thing that happened to Kiro the Wolf. And, you know, I'm just going to say right now, it raises a lot of questions for me as far as everything that happened. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to just do a quick recap, and I'm also going to talk about my personal feelings and thoughts on the whole, you know, subject here. So one of the top questions that comes to mind is, why did Snake Thing betray not only Kero the Wolf, but all of the other zoophiles that happen to be a part of that zoophilia chat room? Why did he disseminate so much information and compile everything into not only material that was shared, as in videos, pictures, and various other material, but also the names as well as the identities of the people that he was associated with? Kero the Wolf just happened to be one person in the group, and there's actually been, you know, various groups in the fandom that have formed in light of all this to go after the members that were known throughout the groups. I'm not sure as to, like, how far they've gotten, but I will say that Snake Thing has indeed been arrested. So that leaves me to the question of, one, why did Snake Thing betray everybody? Two, a lot of people like to say that all of this started with Mordecai, aka Venus as a Bun. Actually, no. Venus as a Bun merely found the data. He found the dump of data that Snake Thing had compiled, I'm assuming. And I have to say, it's just, the whole thing snowballed out of control. Like, you know, far faster and far, like, quicker than I guess anybody could have possibly anticipated. And a lot of people have chastised Venus as a Bun for not going to the police when he could have and just disseminating it on the World Wide Web. But you gotta understand from his point of view, like, hey, I found some suspicious documentation online and I want you guys to look at it. Oh, no, I didn't actually look at it myself. Oh, you're arresting me too? Oh. I'm not saying that that's actually how it would happen, but, like, it looks really bad, you know? And on top of that, like, what assurance did he have that the investigation would go anywhere beyond, oh, we'll look into it? And I hate to be the guy to say that. I personally support law enforcement. I think they are, you know, pretty good. They, like us, are just people, though. People with training and standards that they have to abide by. But at the same time, they generally do a good job in what they have to do. So, but, you know, they're constrained by limited manpower and limited resources, as well as limited time. I could very easily see that the investigation would probably go nowhere. But it's perhaps not the most fair for me to say that, but I would say it's like a 50-50 chance that it would have gone nowhere. So he puts it online. It's widely disseminated. Twitter hate mobs immediately start forming. Various outrage is spewed all across the internet, and you have this brief period where staunch defenders of Kero the Wolf rally together and basically white knight for him, versus various people that jumped on the bandwagon of hate on Kero before the facts had even hit, like actual facts, like, basically observations that any, plain Jane average citizen could have made just looking at the data and looking at the information on hand. As time went on, as more information was gleaned over, it looked more and more likely that Kero the Wolf was in fact guilty, but it was never really a sure thing until much later. So, you had detailed analyses go into all of this. You had, various other people sort of comment on this. Hell, there was a live stream earlier today that talked about Kero the Wolf leaving the fandom. I forget what his name is. He's like a top tier brony bug. I'm gonna go with brony bug because that's the most. It's sad. I'm subscribed to the guy, but I don't know like his name. I just know like his avatar, his voice, and various other things. I don't know his name. I'm gonna go with brony bug. So Brony Bug and a small cadre of individuals, I was at work at the time, were talking about Kero the Wolf leaving the fandom, and it kind of, like, hit to me that this is something that's been, still followed. As in, I believe Brony Bug, he actually went after, Kero the Wolf's Patreon subscribers. No joke. Like, he actually went, after various individuals that were on Kero the Wolf's Patreon list because he did not feel that Kero the Wolf, one, deserved that money, and two, that he really wanted to force him off the internet. I find that, kind of behavior controversial, but at the same time, considering what Kero the Wolf did, I can't really fault the guy too much for wanting to do that. Not something personally I would do, but hey, people have freedom to do what they want and face the consequences of their actions. So I say all this because, basically, you had a back and forth for a long time until real evidence starts hitting, online. And the strongest piece of evidence that, convinced me of Kero the Wolf's guilt was the fact that he did a house tour, not too long ago, like maybe a year or so ago, and there was also a leaked video of basically a dog being, sexually handled with the same background as in that video. And I've seen some pretty generic setups before. This was unique. So either someone copied to the detail of Kero the Wolf's floor plan and layout, or it was actually Kero the Wolf's house. Again, if you want to split hairs, that's on you. I'm just going to say that that was enough to convince me. So, Kero the Wolf. He's leaving the fandom, he says, until further notice, which leads me to believe that he will be coming back at some point. I would imagine that most of his Patreon has basically dried up at this point. I have to say, I was sort of occasionally monitoring his subscriber count. His subscriber count doesn't seem to have suffered all that much. Like, he was at 109,000 subscribers last I checked, which basically the growth had slowed, considerably, but it showed me that there were still a lot of people that were interested in Kero the Wolf. Now, whether or not these were actual fans, or if these were just people that were curious about what was going to happen with Kero the Wolf and wanted to keep an eye on him, that's for you to decide. Personally, I am subscribed to him. I am no longer subscribed to him. I was unsubscribed when all this began. And yeah, it's just kind of taken a life of its own. So obviously, with the Twitter, comments as a basis, I would guesstimate that at least 65 to 75% of the fandom is convinced of Kero the Wolf's guilt, whereas about 25 to 35% of the fandom is convinced of its innocence, or are at the very least naive or willfully ignorant of the facts that have been presented forth to try to substantiate the claim that Kero the Wolf is in fact guilty. I can't say. I haven't had detailed conversations with each of these individuals. But personally, I've seen the best and worst aspects of the fandom throughout this entire engagement. And the sooner we can get past this, the better, but another problem is the fact that you have a lot of other zoophiles out there that have not been caught for their crimes. And, you know, the big fish, quote unquote, of the internet was Kero the Wolf. What about everybody else? What happens to them? Do they just get a free pass because they weren't important enough? It does raise some questions as to like why we immediately went after Kero the Wolf. I say we as a sort of a just blanket term for everybody that engaged in this sort of analysis, that this, you know, impromptu internet investigation that we took upon ourselves. We didn't really seem to fixate on many other people, other than possibly Snake Thing, although he was treated more as a source than he was a, you know, a predator or a, you know, a depraved individual, which is exactly what he is. Some of the things that Snake Thing has done make him far worse than Kero the Wolf ever was. But, you know, we grabbed Kero the Wolf by the scruff of his neck and dragged him through the mud. So I don't like making videos like this, generally speaking, because basically it feels like we as the internet community are dancing on the grave of somebody else's reputation. But as far as Kero the Wolf goes, I can't really say I'm that broken up to see him leave, if he actually is leaving. He might be coming back with a new avatar. He might be sort of, you know, getting an alternative account to try to ghost under the radar, so they can sort of ease himself back in. But obviously, his fursuit is very recognizable, as is his own appearance as an individual. I'm sure he can make slight alterations like shaving more or, you know, growing a big bushy beard, but there ain't a whole lot he can do. And I gotta say, dude should probably remain quiet about it. He probably shouldn't have reasserted his innocence and escalated the situation several times over what it needed to be. So, if you looked up to Kero the Wolf as your own personal icon and inspiration throughout day-to-day life, I'm sorry, but a lot of the internet hates the guy. You might want to consider at least acknowledging the fact that people have a personal gripe or belief that Kero the Wolf is guilty. And that maybe it's best if everybody just dropped the subject going forward, you know? As far as Kero the Wolf goes, I'm sure that he'll have to go on and do some soul searching, but at the end of the day, everything that Kero the Wolf did is already done. Whether he continues to do said things or go out of his way to go back to old habits is another question. But if he is truly repentant and he stops doing all this stuff, and if a court of law, if he is even arrested, finds him innocent, then we should all just move on. And, you know, I'm not saying forget about it, but, you know, what can you really do at the end of the day? Are you going to go to his house? Are you going to picket it and boycott him? Are you going to throw tomatoes at him if you see him in the street? Heavens forbid you do something worse, and I do not advocate you do any of these things, nor do I advocate you attack the dude. Just leave him be. He doesn't need to be welcomed into this fandom, but at the same time, we don't need to go out of our way and attacking the dude, you know? Not to say that I'm condoning pedophilia, zoophilia, or necrophilia, or anything like that. I'm just saying that, as far as I'm aware, he has not been arrested yet, so we really don't know how this is all going to play out in the long run. But while the wheels of justice turn kind of slowly, we can at least bear it in mind and keep it at the back of our minds and just, you know, move on with our daily lives. So, I might make a final video about this, just going into detailed analysis of these things that, like, I give a second look. I'm not sure if my analysis of all the evidence, weighing it up to that point, was good enough for you all. If it was, great. If it wasn't, I'm sorry to hear that. But, like I said, how all this sort of transpired and unfolded, I'm not entirely sure what's coming next. And if we rushed into this and basically lost a few key details along the way, or maybe, you know, this is basically case closed. But, yeah, as far as these Twitter comments go, that's all she wrote. And that's all Kero the Wolf offered the public. So, I would just like to lay this matter to rest for right now and say that the Kero the Wolf scandal, as it has occurred from the beginning to the end, it has met its conclusion as far as I'm concerned. And whether or not Kero the Wolf gets arrested from this point onwards, I can't say, but it's something to watch out for. or don't. You have a life to live, as do I. So, till next video, guys, take care and peace. I hope you all have a better one.